In modern warfare, the kill is a metric. It is cold, brutal, and essential for analysis. During the Second World War, U.S. forces expended an estimated 25,000 rounds of small arms ammunition for every one enemy soldier killed. A staggering figure until it is compared to the data from Vietnam. There, the number escalated to an almost incomprehensible 50,000 rounds per kill. 50,000 bullets. Enough to fill the magazines of over 2,500 individual soldiers. This statistic is not a typo. It is a documented estimate that haunts the tactical legacy of the conflict. It forces a deeply uncomfortable question. How is this possible? Was every soldier simply firing blind? Was American marksmanship that catastrophically degraded? The simple answers are the wrong ones. This number is not an indictment of the individual rifleman. It is a symptom of a profound disconnect. It reveals a complex, agonizing story where industrial-scale logistics, revolutionary weapons technology, and a flawed tactical doctrine converged in the jungles and rice paddies. The 50,000 round figure isn't a measure of failure. It is a measure of a new kind of war. One fought with a doctrine of overwhelming firepower that treated bullets not as projectiles, but as an area denial tool. Now, let's open the archives and zero in on the story. To understand this number, we cannot begin in a general's briefing room. We must start on the ground, with the weight on a single soldier's back. The soldier is a 19-year-old infantryman, a grunt, moving through the heat of the Ashau Valley. His core equipment is the M16 rifle, a weapon that represents a pivotal shift in military technology. It's lightweight, futuristic, and fires a small, incredibly fast 5.56 millimeter projectile. This small caliber is key. Because the ammunition is light, he can carry more of it. Much more. His standard combat load, or basic load, is 140 rounds. 7 20-round magazines. But this is just the official minimum. In the field, Doctrine gives way to survival. We can visualize him before a patrol, packing his gear. He stuffs extra magazines into his pockets until they bulge. He drapes cloth bandoliers, each holding 7 more magazines, across his chest, crisscrossed like a bandito. He fills his rucksack with loose cartons of ammunition. The total weight is staggering. It's not uncommon for a rifleman to carry 4, 5, or even 600 rounds into a single operation. This isn't for a week-long siege. This is for a single day's patrol. This immense personal arsenal is the first clue to solving the 50,000 round puzzle. The individual soldier was not trained in the marksmanship traditions of the previous generation. He was trained in the doctrine of fire superiority. When contact is made, a sudden burst of automatic fire from a tree line 100 meters away, his reaction is instantaneous. He doesn't drop to one knee, line up his sights, and squeeze off a single aimed shot. He drops to his belly, flips his M16 selector switch to full auto, and points the weapon toward the sound. He is firing, as the doctrine dictates, to win the firefight.
Move!
This means putting so much lead into the air that the enemy is forced to keep their heads down, unable to return effective fire, allowing the rest of the squad to maneuver. He isn't shooting at a person. He is shooting at a location. He empties his 20-round magazine in less than 2 seconds. He slams in another, and another. Multiply this action by every man in his platoon. Within 30 seconds, thousands of rounds have been discharged into a patch of jungle. This is the Mad Minute, a deluge of firepower designed to suppress, to terrify, and to control the battlefield through sheer volume. The soldier isn't missing 49,999 times. He is participating in a system that requires him to expend hundreds of rounds just to survive a single encounter. This weight of fire was the tactical answer to an enemy who was invisible, elusive, and fighting on his own terms. But this tactical solution was itself rooted in a deeper, more fundamental shift in military thinking. The soldier's M16 and the doctrine behind it is the core of this statistical anomaly. To understand its impact, we must first look at what it replaced: the M14 rifle. The M14 was a product of a past generation, firing a heavy, powerful 7.62 millimeter round. It was an excellent marksman's rifle, designed for aimed, semi-automatic fire at long distances, a direct descendant of the M1 Garand that won the Second World War. But in the close-quarters jungle warfare of Vietnam, it was unwieldy. Its recoil on full auto was uncontrollable, and its heavy ammunition limited a soldier's load. The M16, firing the lightweight 5.56 millimeter round, was a different philosophy entirely. The projectile was a fraction of the weight. This is the critical technical detail. We can visualize the trade-off. For the same weight as 100 rounds of 7.62 millimeter ammunition, a soldier could carry roughly 250 rounds of 5.56 millimeters. This technological shift did not just allow a soldier to carry more ammunition. It encouraged a doctrine that depended on him carrying more. This doctrine was fire superiority, a concept born from the conventional battlefields of Europe, but misapplied to the insurgency in Southeast Asia. The U.S. military was structured to find, fix, and destroy a visible enemy. In Vietnam, the enemy was largely invisible. A firefight was not a planned engagement. It was a sudden, terrifying ambush from a concealed position. This led to the widespread use of reconnaissance by fire. A platoon moving through dense jungle would approach a hot area, village, a tree line, a river crossing. Instead of waiting to be ambushed, the platoon leader would give the command to light it up. Every soldier would empty magazines into the suspected enemy positions before a single shot had been fired at them. This was not an act of panic. It was a standard operating procedure. The goal was to trigger an ambush or suppress it before it could begin. This tactic was then magnified by the introduction of automatic support weapons. The M60 machine gun, firing 550 rounds a minute, provided a base of fire. But the real force multiplier was aerial. We must visualize a UH-1 Huey helicopter on a gun run. Mounted on its side is an M134 minigun. This weapon is not a rifle. It is an electric-powered Gatling gun, firing 4,000 rounds per minute. When providing cover for troops landing in a hot LZ landing zone, these helicopters would spray the surrounding jungle, expending tens of thousands of rounds in a single pass to suppress any potential threat. This is where the 50,000 round statistic solidifies. It's a system-wide average. It includes the M16 on full auto, the M60 on sustained fire, and the helicopter's minigun firing a torrent of lead. The U.S. was fighting an industrial war of attrition. Bullets were no longer precision instruments. They were a consumable resource, an area denial tool used to buy time and space. The strategy was to substitute overwhelming industrial-scale firepower for the slow, difficult, and often impossible work of locating a guerrilla fighter. The 50,000-round figure, therefore, is not a failure of marksmanship. It is the precise mathematical outcome of a doctrine that used ammunition as a blunt instrument of suppression. We return, then, to the 50,000-round question. This statistic is not an absurdity. It is the logical, calculated endpoint of a specific military doctrine. It is the cost, in lead and brass, of a strategy that prized fire superiority above all else. When a war is defined not by territory captured, but by a body count. And when the enemy refuses to be found, the only remaining metric of success becomes the sheer volume of firepower deployed. The individual grunt from Section 2, hauling 400 rounds of ammunition, was not a poor marksman. He was the human engine of an industrial-scale system. He and his platoon, firing a wall of lead into an empty tree line, were doing exactly what their doctrine demanded, suppressing a ghost. The 50,000-round figure is the sound of a conventional army fighting an unconventional war. It is the echo of miniguns firing 4,000 rounds a minute at a phantom, of an M16 on full auto used as a psychological tool rather than a precision one. This number reveals the central tragedy of the conflict's tactics. It represents a profound failure to understand the nature of the enemy. The U.S. military brought the greatest logistical and industrial machine in history to bear, but it was a machine built to smash armies in the field. In Vietnam, it found itself in a war of shadows, and its response was to flood those shadows with an ocean of steel, hoping to drown whatever hid within. History does not judge a soldier by the rounds he fires, but by the cause he serves and the strategy he is given. The 50,000-round statistic is a permanent scar in the historical record. It is a chilling reminder that a nation can possess the most technologically advanced and well-supplied military on Earth and still find itself expending 50,000 bullets for a kill it could never strategically afford.